Member Hanson,
Here.
Councilmember Lisa Lake,
Here.
Councilmember Robert Oxmacher,
Present.
Councilmember Luke Wagner.
Here.
All right. Consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions on this? Excuse me? That's a good point. Do we have any public comments?
I don't think so. Did anybody sign in? Okay, I didn't see any.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Thanks, Robert. And no amendments to the agenda, right? Okay. On the consent agenda, does anybody have any questions? I did have one on the approving the independent contractor for real estate. And I noticed that there was consult fees that they could charge and stuff like that. I assume we will not be using that, at least in the near term. That it's just a contract. It's the regular 6% commission on when you sell this. Am I correct? Okay.
Lisa
Is that
saying
correct,
yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mayor and council reports. Anybody have a report? No? Okay, resolution number 43, series 2022, resolution initiating the annexation proceedings for property known as Connell Annexation 3 and 4, giving notice of public hearing on November 8th, 2022. Kevin.
This is just a substantial compliance hearing with similar to all previous annexations we've done, just to give the head nod that it meets contiguity requirements and is eligible for annexation. This annexation is just for roughly 4 acres of County Road 5 right-of-way from just north of where the Whites Hole County Road 5 intersection is down to the Kechter intersection. It's needed just for some improvements to County Road 5 that are to be done with the Ladera subdivision at this time. So it's just the substantial compliance to give us the go-ahead for annexation proceedings.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 43, series 2022, a resolution initiating annexation proceedings for property known as Connell Annexation 3 and 4 and giving notice of public hearing on November 8th, 2022.
I move to recommend approval of a resolution initiating annexation proceedings for property known as the Connell Annexation 3 and 4 and giving notice of public hearing thereon.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Resolution number 44, series 2022, a resolution authorizing funds to be expended for construction of phase 3 of Timnath Community Park. Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. So we did talk about this a little bit in our work session, but I just wanted to go through it for the full meeting. I put a lot of information in the packet there. I'm not going to rehash all of that, but I did say in the packet that we'd bring a couple of opportunities for cost savings to the council as we are so far out of what our projected budget was. So we met with the general contractor ECI, who we are recommending last week, and we did talk about a couple of potential cost savings. The only ones they had where we would keep the scope and have potential cost savings beyond what they put in their proposal were to either remove some of the boulder work that was happening or to maybe look at alternatives for furnishings. We were reticent to kind of go down those roads because it would change the character of that improvement as it relates to the rest of the park. You know, we want to have those consistent furnishings, the same trash cans, the same picnic tables throughout the park. And then that boulder work that they were talking about changing, they have some other boulders that are granite boulders, but they are more angular in nature as opposed to the slab sandstone that we've used for the rest of the park. If this was a new phase of a new park, I would be more inclined to incorporate those different pieces, but my recommendation would be to keep that consistent look throughout the project. So as people come in who have not been there before, there's not a clear difference between like this phase and the other work that we've done. So what we fell back to was looking at some of the changes in scope that would bring us closer into budget. So the first one that we put out there, and this is based on the initial discussions we had with the council, was to remove the pavilion. That was one of the lower scoring pieces in the survey that came up. And I think it wasn't a requirement when we kind of went through that, but we did want to bid it. So we had the numbers for it. So removing that pavilion would knock off about $95,000 out of the total contract price. The other thing that we looked at was, well, what if we phase out an area? The lower results on the survey were the basketball and tennis area. So we could just not touch that area at all, push that into a future phase. That would be a savings of about $615,000. So I know that when we talked about it in the budget work session, I think we talked about trying to do the whole project, but I did want to bring those options forward to you. So I think we would still recommend building the full phase. I mean, I think the council's direction was to try to finish that park out. So I'm happy to answer any questions that we have or.
Okay. Questions?
So finishing the phase and let's say including the pavilion, what was the cost on that final number?
That was the 2.285.
Okay, so that's everything.
Yep, that's it. That would be all in.
There was a 2.6. Brian, what am I mixing
That was a
up?
different contractor. So in that comparison sheet, we had 4 proposals returned.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, ECI actually did have the lowest price. In addition, one of the reasons why we feel strongly with going with them is we have partnered with them on the CMG process for both phase 2 of the community park and the reservoir. And they've just done amazing work and they're very responsible as far as the budget comes.
Brett, did you have more?
I'll just comment that, you know, with our budget work session that we did earlier today, this was the amount that we essentially put in the CIP. And I am in favor of finishing this park so we can focus on getting the other parks in the town done. So I'm in favor of approving as staff has recommended.
Anybody else?
I guess I'll just express a little bit of reservation. I wasn't part of council when when this was discussed, but this was originally a budgeted $1 million project. Council said, let's really finish it out at 1.6. And, you know, now we're up to 2.2. So this is more than doubled in scope. I do think it's important to get it done. I think that we want to continue to prioritize parks and recs, but I'm a little bit frustrated that I think had the original conversation last year or early this year been about 2.2 million, I think it probably we would have looked then at, you know, not doing basketball courts, not doing something. I know eliminating pickleball courts would not have been popular, Phil, but I'm going to hesitantly support this, but it is frustrating to watch the price spiral on this.
And just to this, because you don't have the background of that earlier conversation, when we worked on the budget last year, what we proposed was that we split this into multiple phases. And then at the work session earlier, we combined those. So that was the reason to jump from 1 to 1.6. What we didn't probably factor in when we were discussing the 1.6 is that originally in the master plan, this was 2 tennis courts and 2 basketball courts. And then we took 1 basketball court away and added 6 pickleball courts. While we accounted for the cost of those actual pieces, there was some infrastructure pieces that we weren't anticipating. So there was a lot more stormwater costs where everything was going to be sheet flowing before. Because we have this additional impervious, we had to do some stormwater infrastructure. So there was a couple things that just didn't really that weren't anticipated when we were talking about those earlier numbers.
Yeah, and we were just unfortunate to be right in the cost escalation just across the board. And it was just hard for us to keep up with. And that's, it sounds like an excuse, but it's just trying to state the facts. I mean, we were trying to catch up with these numbers and they were going faster than we've seen in any time in history.
And some of these changes were a reflection of the community survey, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? The only piece I'd like to say is I'd like to see the picnic area, the shelter, look more like what's on page 182, which isn't one of the persons that won the bid, but I'd like to see it look more like that as opposed to actually what we have out at the Timnath Community Park, which is that tent type thing.
Well, so the one that's on 182 is actually a picture of our pavilion in phase 1 at the community.
Okay,
park.
great,
So we'll move towards that
great.
without the stone columns.
Okay, yeah, I don't care about the stone columns. Anything else? Okay, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 44, series 2022, a resolution authorizing funds to be expensed for the construction of phase 2 of the Timnath Community Park?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. I think we all on the council would like to see this happen sooner than later too, so
Yep, we're working on it tomorrow. I got a
Get
meeting
it.
with them, so.
we get it. Any council member have any questions, comments that they'd like to bring up? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.